Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the 2017 Academy Awards. I think it's probably hard to talk about the Oscars without talking about what happened with Best Picture, which kind of seemingly, I guess, has overshadowed the whole night and has become probably one of the greatest Oscar moments to happen in modern history. And it was pretty shocking. To go from Best Picture La La Land to Best Picture Moonlight was pretty surprising. Kind of a thing I'd never thought would happen, to be honest. But it brings up a lot of interesting quandaries, I guess, about the Oscars and everything in general. Makes them look incredibly disorganized, but it's also really awesome because I didn't really like La La Land as much as Moonlight, and I think Moonlight's a far superior film. Obviously, what I picked as the best movie of last year and what I wanted to win the most, so it was kind of cool, right, when you're like, oh, okay, that's sort of what I thought would happen, to, oh, cool, this is what I wanted to happen, was kind of incredible and really like woke you up at a point in the evening where you've watched this whole award show. It's fairly typical for the most part and usual Academy Awards, and you're like, oh, whoa. It'll probably go down with like the streaking guy in the 70s and like Marlon Brando having like the Native American woman who I think was an actress or something come up and accept his award on his behalf and certain things like that. So it's a major moment. One of the interesting things about it, and in the article that was tweeted right after this whole thing happened from the Huffington Post, which was, I think, published on the 24th, but it was basically like what would happen if someone listed the wrong name because of the infamous Marissa Tomei controversy, which now, because of this, we know is total crap, by the way. Basically what happens is, you know, at the beginning, if you watch any of the red carpet, they always say, we have these two people from this accounting firm, Price Waterhouse, whatever. They all show two people, and it's usually the same two people. If you watch them enough, you'll even recognize them. One of the guys was behind all the chaos as the Best Picture people were leaving, so clearly they do something. They don't just, show up. I mean, normally I don't think they've ever had to do much, just show up and make sure the winners are correct. And apparently what happens is they have two people, they're on either side of the stage, and they memorize the winners. They make sure each other is correct, and that when the winners are announced, it's correct. And if there's any problem, they tell the stage manager. And apparently this time, one of them, or both of them, I guess, because of what Warren Beatty said, corrected it. So I guess we'll learn more as time goes on what actually happened, but as Warren Beatty said, it just said Emma Stone La La Land, and they probably should have said, this is the wrong envelope, could we get the right one? But apparently that's what happened. So this lays to rest like all the Marissa Tomei stuff, which was rather mean, to be honest, back in the day. So I guess we have a new Oscar moment that solved a previous Oscar thing. So that's kind of basically what happened, I guess, the nuts and bolts of it, sort of. But it's kind of a crazy moment. It's definitely more exciting than the rest of the entire award show, which I guess now I'll talk about. But that was just like, that was insane. I've watched the Oscars for a little bit now, and that's certainly one I'm going to remember. It's just like, holy shit. It's nice that Moonlight won. I believe it won about 3 awards, I believe, which is more than I thought. In La La Land winning 6. I think I tweeted 7, but obviously, things change, so, which is kind of surprising because I think most people thought it was going to win more than that, and I even thought most people actually thought it was going to go Best Director, Barry Jenkins, Best Picture, La La Land, and it's kind of interesting it went the reverse, which I don't think anyone expected. The Best Director, Best Picture split seems to be becoming more and more common with the Oscars. That might be because there's more choices, so people are thinking a little more broadly in terms of different movies and such, or it could just be we're in a time where that's happening more. It used to never really happen. It's only happened about 20, I guess this would be the 25th time, but I think previously it's only happened 24 out of 89 Academy Awards. So it's not something that happens a lot. It just happened a lot more recently. I mean, I guess it happened last year also, and the year before. It happens a lot. I think that was also surprising, which is usually interesting because Best Picture and Best Director aren't as surprising normally. These past 2 years, I guess it was. So the show itself was fine. I didn't really love Jimmy Kimmel. I think I was more fine with him just doing general hosting when he tried to bring in his own talk show, which I've never really liked his talk show. I haven't seen a ton of it, in all fairness, but I've never liked what I've seen to watch more of it. He kept bringing that into the show, and I think that might have been a mistake when Jon Stewart hosted, or Ellen hosts. They don't bring in their own shows as much. They kind of do their own thing. I don't know his background in stand-up or anything, but I felt like he should have maybe not done that, but he did it all the same, I guess. But overall, he was kind of subpar. It's kind of a thankless job, but I didn't particularly like him. I don't think I hated him as much as I thought I would, so that's something. The only thing that sucks about big award show moments is then the previous award show, they'll reference it, like when Travolta mentioned Idina Menzel's name wrong and things like that. So we're gonna have to hear a lot of jokes about it on next year's Oscars. So whoopee. Here, I'm just going to go over the various winners and guess things like that. I wasn't surprised by Emma Stone at all. I think everyone kind of called that one. I kind of didn't want it to happen, but the La La Land thing, I don't hate La La Land, but it just became such a thing that it just got a little too much. I think just even hating it or liking it, it was just like, I just wanted to go away. I've never hated it that much. As a movie, I'm kind of fine with it. It's an enjoyable experience. When it was getting so much hype, I think it just got a little too overwhelming. But, you know, I guess that's what she was going to win for. Emma Stone's a fine actress, so I think I would have preferred her to win for another role, but that's usually how the Oscars work anyway. Personally, I liked Isabelle Huppert in Elle was probably my favorite performance of the year from a female actress. So Best Actor was a little surprising because it seemed like the tide was turning towards Denzel Washington very heavily, and I was just like honestly shocked that Casey Affleck won. I didn't think he was going to win. It obviously was between those two. It wasn't going to be like Andrew Garfield or something. It just seemed like for the past month, Denzel was building steam, and particularly after I saw Fences, I thought, oh, he's going to win. And I'm a little disappointed he didn't, but I think honestly Amazon had so much push behind Manchester by the Sea that seemed to have worked for it, particularly with that and original screenplay, which I did predict, which I was surprised I was right. I thought I was going out on a limb on that one, but I think that was a good surprise. Regardless of what you think of Casey Affleck and whatnot, I think Manchester by the Sea is actually a good movie. If you're curious about it, you should see it. I think it's going to be on Prime at some point. They own it. I don't know how Amazon Prime does the things, like they release movies, but you never know when they're going to actually be on Prime, so it's like whatever. But Case, I mean, it's like I would prefer he didn't win, obviously because of other things, and also like Denzel deserves to have two best lead actors. I know he has two, a supporting and a best actor already, but I think he is the caliber of an actor to get another one, but he didn't. So it was great seeing Mahershala Ali win. He was the first Muslim actor to ever win an Academy Award, and he was really great in the role, and I'm so glad he won. It seemed like he was always going to win, and he did. So same with Viola Davis, I think, is one of those actresses who just, it's shocking. Like most people when we were watching it were like, wait, she doesn't have one? And I think because she's such that caliber of an actor that you just assume she's so good, how could she not have one? So now we don't have to think that anymore. And she should have had one for, I mean, just for Doubt. If you ever see her performance in Doubt, she was so good in that. I noticed a lot of people are disappointed in Best Animated Feature. There are a lot of people wanted Kubo to win. Zootopia, I think, was the best animated film of the year. For me, I think Kubo, honestly, if you're really going to go into it, I think Kubo should have won visual effects. And I know Jungle Book did, but I think what Jungle Book does isn't as creative as what Kubo did. Because Kubo did a whole crazy, insane world that no one's ever done before, and a visual feast that no one's ever attempted, and pushing stop motion with CG and green screen ways that no one's ever done it before. And I think that was worth the visual effects win, to be honest. But they chose Jungle Book. But like seeing Kubo, I didn't love the story of it, but the experience of seeing Kubo, I'll probably never forget. Anytime people say it wasn't that good, I'm still like, yes, but I will always defend those visuals. So for me, I think that nomination was warranted, and the fact that it was the first animated film nominated for Best Visual Effects since Nightmare Before Christmas, I think says a lot. Even though a lot of people are disappointed about Kubo, and rightfully so, I guess if you're a fan of it, I still think it still got a precedent-setting nomination. It just would have been nicer if it got a precedent-setting win, but whatever. The Salesman won as well, which I guess is everyone saying was kind of a nod at Trump, particularly because of the travel ban. Asghar Farhadi, again, this is his second win he won for A Separation. He is a really great filmmaker, and regardless of politics or anything, if you voted for Trump and you're like, I don't want to see this because of Iran and things, just see his films, because I think they are actually really good. And I didn't like the one he made between these two, but I haven't seen The Salesman, to be honest, but I would say see A Separation and see The Salesman as well, because I've heard that's good. But that's another win also for Amazon Prime, who won a lot tonight. So I think that says a lot about streaming. That's probably one of the things people aren't going to talk about as much with this awards, is that streaming, Amazon Prime ended up winning, you know, all the ones for Manchester by the Sea, including two I think people were not sure they'd win necessarily. And then for Best Foreign Language Film, says a lot about them as a new studio. Netflix hasn't done that yet, so I think Amazon Prime's going to become a bigger and bigger awards contender as this whole streaming thing goes on. I was surprised by Best Film Editing went to Hacksaw Ridge. Like, I didn't think the editing particularly was great. Maybe if it was like Best Fight Choreography or Best, you know, violence in a film about a pacifist or something. I was disappointed by Best Cinematography for La La Land, but it's to be expected. It is very showy and very much like, this is cinematography, which usually wins. It's kind of like the thing of like, look at this meadow, and people go, that's great cinematography, and you're like, that's a beautiful image. But I think cinematography calls to mind a little bit more than that, and I think Moonlight did that more. Like, they're telling your story with the cinematography, not just going like, look at this sweeping thing. And I guess La La Land sort of was doing that, but it's just calling to mind it so much that it's kind of uninteresting, particularly at this point. But it won anyway, so it doesn't matter. Sound mixing obviously had that controversy over the guy in 13 Hours. One of the guys who was nominated actually got his nomination rescinded the night before the Oscars, which is insane because of he was actually calling his friends to tell him to nominate him for his work in that, which is against Academy rules, but I've never seen them resend a nomination the day before. Obviously, this was a precedent-setting Oscars for more than one reason. I'm sure the sound mixing problems weren't something you were thinking about, but I thought that was like shocking. I've never heard of that. But the rest of the people who were nominated for 13 Hours did still get to be nominated and everything like that. It's just this one guy who got his name taken out. But Hacksaw Ridge won for sound mixing, which a lot of people thought La La Land would win because mixing, difference between mixing and mixing is the levels and the editing is usually more Foley sounds and such. I sort of can get Hacksaw Ridge on that. I'm surprised Hacksaw Ridge won 2 Oscars, but whatever. That's the world we live in and Trump is president. Sound awards usually go to explodey films, and that's how it works. Best sound editing did go to Arrival, which I think is well deserved because the sound design that is just amazing, and I'm glad a film with cooler, weirder sound actually got a sound award. Production design boringly went to La La Land. Best makeup and hairstyling went to Suicide Squad, which I think I predicted, but I kind of thought like everyone would freak out, and of course they did. And everyone's like, oh, it's bullshit that Suicide Squad now has more Oscars than Vertigo and things like that. That just kind of highlights how much bullshit the Oscars are. Yeah, I thought it was funny. I mean, literally, like, look at the Joker in Suicide Squad and go, that got an Oscar. That was probably the most egregious winner. I was hoping it happened because it was so stupid. It was really stupid. I just love that Batman v Superman won the Razzie for Worst Picture and Suicide Squad won an Oscar in the same weekend. That is a DCEU movie. I know I tweeted that, but that is ridiculous. That is as dumb as a DC movie. That is how dumb that is. Best song, obviously La La Land won. I guess that was obvious. I was kind of hoping Moana would win. I think there were better songs from Moana to have been nominated, by the way. I think If You're Welcome was in there. We had The Rock singing You're Welcome. That would have just been cool to see, even though he sung it a little on the show. But whatever, best original score obviously was La La Land. Oh, but it was cool costume design. Colleen Atwood, who's won before, but I think the costume design in Fantastic Mr. Beast was cool. It would have, I think I probably would have liked Jackie to win, but I think the costume designs in Fantastic Beasts were cool, even if I didn't like that movie at all. And the longest film to ever win an Oscar won tonight, which was O.J. Made in America, which is a great documentary. It was made by ESPN 30 for 30. It did play in theaters, and I think it's the first film to win an Oscar and an Emmy, although I'm not sure about that, but it is the longest film to ever win, ever, which is kind of crazy. And it's a good movie and all that. The other things, I guess, was Damien Chazelle, youngest director to ever win Best Director. Most people, if you're talking about this, will be like the Best Picture thing, and Suicide Squad won an Oscar. And I guess you could take that away from it, but the main things you should take away from it really are that streaming has a bigger place in the Academy, that streaming actually won some Academy Awards this time. ESPN's 30 for 30 documentary series has gone far enough to win an actual Oscar, which I think says a lot about them, and it says a lot about the content creator idea that you don't need to be Universal Studios to make an Oscar-winning Best Picture, especially because I don't actually think they won an Oscar this time. But theoretically, what I'm saying is that has been smashed through this, and I think that's something you should actually take away from this. But that Best Picture thing was kind of crazy. I mean, just like, holy shit. I never thought that would happen. It kind of made so-so, whatever Oscars into something really amazing and hilarious, and just like, wow, I mean, you can call the Oscars clueless, and I'm sure they are. You can call them stupid, and you can say they often award things that probably shouldn't be awarded those things, particularly with Suicide Squad. And I say you're right, but I had a really good time with seeing that whole thing. I mean, just like, wow. I'm sure Warren Beatty's going to do some funny thing next year, or Faye Dunaway, who's the one who really read it out. But Warren Beatty apologized, which was nice of him. I noticed Faye Dunaway was nowhere to be seen at the end of that. But anyway, so that was the Oscars. That was what I thought of them. This is me wearing a suit again. I'm a little sick, so sorry for the voice thing, but I will be getting better soon. So that was the Oscars this year. I think it went out with quite a bang this time, even though the whole campaign leading up to it might have felt pretty boring, but I guess you never know what's gonna happen and all that stuff. And this time it actually turned out to be something cool, which I'm sure won't happen next year. So I guess we should just enjoy this for now and just hope maybe for an Oscar season with just a glimmer of kind of the fun and ridiculousness that we got towards the end of this. So if you would like to talk about the Oscars and what won and what you disagreed with, then comment in the comments below and subscribe if you would like to.